Welcome back to Abbey Road Quilt and Sewing. I am Billy, and today I wanted to share with you guys how I am going to whittle my way through making a small beach bag. In a previous video that I posted, I actually may have mentioned it in two videos earlier, that I do not follow patterns. I just can't do it. I mean, I can and I will at one point in time when I find something. I think when I start venturing into clothing and stuff like that, I will ultimately follow a pattern. But I want to dabble a little bit with this fun fabric that I have right here. It is a summer pattern. It's very bright and vibrant, and I thought that this would be a cute bag that you could take to the beach. So what I've done is I have very crudely, very roughly cut down the fabric, as you can see right here, to what it is right now, and I still have to modify it a good bit, which I'm going to walk you through the steps of that. So this is all about making a fun little bag from scraps. I have one over there that I'll grab in a second and I'll show you. I made it out of t-shirts. It took me, I don't know, about 3 hours, and I love it. I use it often. But this is the lining. I thought that a bright red would go well with the color in this fabric right here. So this is actually doubled, this fabric right here, as you can see. I have pressed this fabric as best as I can. It's, I believe it's polyester fabric. So polyester fabric, for my iron that I have right now, I have to spend a lot of time ironing it, pressing it to get the seams out. So there are going to be some that are in this one that I just have to deal with. So I have a couple things laid out here I wanted to talk to you guys about. Of course, the rotary tool that I was talking about earlier, can't live without it. I could just as easily, no, not as easily, but to do what I'm doing with such a small piece, I could use my scissors, but this is so much easier. I swear by the rotary tool, and I believe everybody out there does as well. I've got some repurposed elastic right here, which I am ultimately going to be wrapping with this red fabric. That is the interior or the lining of what's going to be on the inside of this bag. So I'm gonna wrap this elastic with this red fabric, so it's going to actually have a red straps. It's going to have red straps, but with this elastic support on the inside. So I'm going to go over that with you guys. There was something that I just figured out, and I think is super important, because I now am exposed to the awesomeness of a curved pin, a bobby pin. You see the difference? And I actually had to make this one, and tomorrow I will be going to the store and getting some. But if you look at the differences between these two pins, and these are two different size pins, if you have a curved pin, when you are scooping to secure multiple layers of fabric, this makes it so much easier. So I just found this out. I have been using these, and it becomes cumbersome and a little more difficult than what I think it should be. So to know that they have a product out there, and I believe you can get these at your local fabric store or online, but they are the curved bobby pins, and I think they work so much better than the push pins that we have used. It depends on what you're making, honestly. I always swear by a push pin, but for stuff like this, and for big projects like the project that I'm working on, that I'm going to show you guys the entire process of this gargantuan quilt that I'm making, I will use curved bobby pins. So something to keep in mind if you've never heard of them. You should definitely keep an eye out for them. If you have the opportunity to get them, I would definitely get them. So, again, I do not have the plastic, or I don't know what kind of material they're made out of, but the big measuring boards that you see all of the professionals using. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm kind of a rebel, and I cut things as I see with my eyeball, and trust this guy pretty well. He does me well so far, but I'm sure eventually I will be able to get the big plastic board, or measuring boards. So, with that being said, I'm going to start cutting on this a little bit. I think I'm going to trim it down a bit. This is absolutely too deep, in my opinion, so I'm probably going to cut 3 or 4 inches off this fabric. And the fabric that I have left over, I'm probably going to turn into pockets on the inside, which is kind of exciting. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started there. So I pretty much have all of this fabric lined up as best as it will get, but I still have some, you see that right there? To me, I consider that salvage, but I also have some over here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that by using my rotary, and with one fell swoop, oh, I have nicked my blade, so it's missing some. It means I'm going to have to replace it. And it's only because I'm using a metal ruler. If I would wisen up and get the acrylic measuring board, it would be a lot easier. And I probably wouldn't be messing up as many blades. This is the second blade that I've actually had to replace on this because of that. But I just love it for some reason. It works well for me. But that's just how I do. So I am lining up my yardstick, and I can tell what is a straight line by how the fabric is going. And I'm gauging. I'll get rid of this. Cut it one more time, just to make sure, because there's a skip in my blade, which I will correct before I make another video. And I will probably have to get one of the acrylic things, because what is happening, and as I said in all of my videos previously, everything is a learning opportunity. I've gotten accustomed to using this, and I think it does a really good job. But if I'm not 100% paying attention to what I'm doing, this blade will nick this metal, and it'll cause it to skip when it's cutting the fabric. So, word to the wise. So there we go. So this is all squared away. All of it is squared away. I have already pressed the fabric, like I said, as good as it's going to get. And I'm actually going, this is actually folded in half right here, so this will actually be the bottom. So with this, oh, cheers. Have to have a glass of wine after work. So this is, let's see, 24 inches wide, 24 inches wide, and how deep is it? Almost 22, yeah, 22. I myself think that's a little deep. So whenever I'm creating, this is all scrap fabric. All I want to do is sit here and kind of hone in on some of my skills and be creative. I'm not making a quilt, which is, to me, an ultimate project. Like everything I do, I want it to be, 100% right. Everything I do on that quilt, I need to make sure is right. So with something fun like this, I just like to mess around and see what I can come up with and what I think my mind is telling me to do. So I really think that right here, and I'm not going to let this video drag out, but it's 22 inches long. I think I need to take probably about 7, because you want it a little deep, but 22 inches, that is just a little too deep in my opinion for what I'm trying to do here. So 7 inches. 7 inches. Right here. And I gotta get my pen. I'm gonna take 7 inches off of it. So measure twice, mark once. Measure twice, mark once. So 7 inches. And I will do the same thing over here. 7 inches. Line up my marks with my metal ruler, which is chipping my rotary tool, and I'm actually going to give it about 1/8 of an inch for seam allowance, because I'm going to ultimately have to sew all of this together. And then this is plenty of fabric up here, if you can see, plenty of fabric to do pockets on the inside. So now you see how difficult that is? My blade is skipping because you have to be careful with your rotary tool. To me, it's the most important tool that you have in creating, because you get such clean lines and you can cut through multiple fabrics. So I can actually make out of this, because this is 4 pieces of fabric, I can do on the inside, I can do a pocket of this material, and then beside it, literally take this, make a pocket here on the inside, and then just to have contrast, I could make a second pocket with the red. Or I could cut this down in half, fold this in half, or like this, and half, and just get decorative and actually make this into a pocket. Or I could line this red fabric with this. I could bind it and make it that much more artistic. So the sky's the limit when it comes to that. So this is good fabric. I'm going to hold on to it, and I will do something with that soon. So this is what we're left with. So this is now right at 15 inches and 15 inches. So we're good to go. And this is ultimately going to be the inside of it. So what I want to do now is I'm ultimately going to turn this inside out and take a look at the inside of it. Let's make sure we're keeping with our edges. Always start, when you're messing with your fabric, you always start on the inside in the center. Rub out, massage your fabric to get all your wrinkles and whatever else may be there. So put that over here. So if I were going to put a pocket in here, what would I do? Let's see. I could take this fabric here, this piece, this salvage, which I call salvage. It's not actually salvage, it's actually scrap, but to me it's salvage because I'm trying to save it. I don't want to get rid of it. So I could ultimately sew this piece down on 3 sides and have this big pocket. To me, that would be flimsy, and I wouldn't trust it. And I could take this and do the same thing on 3 sides, sew it on 3 sides, and have a second pocket. But I just don't think that there's enough sturdiness to that. So what I'm ultimately going to do is I'm going to join these two pieces of fabric. I'm going to sew them together just like this, and I'm going to make 2 pockets. And I will do a straight stitch right here, so there will be a pocket here and a pocket here on the inside, and I'm going to do that on both sides. So I will do that, and I will be back.